Hey everyone. So I have a lot to tell you about the upcoming HydrosPlus third function. I'm going to spend just a little bit of time on the valve today. I could talk about this for a straight hour, but I'm going to try not to do that because it's not quite here yet, first of all. And second of all, I just want to introduce you to the concept and spend a little bit of time on talking about why we're even putting out a third function. Now, if you're subscribed to the newsletter, if you've been around for just a bit, you'll know my point of view on creating a new product and bringing it to market is one, there's not anything like it. Well, this one, clearly, there are plenty of those out there. You've got third functions that are OEM third functions for John Deere that go on all these green tractors you can see here. You've got third-party third functions that work great as well. So why? We don't meet that criteria. The second thing is, there's really three. The second is, it is the same product that's on the market, but it does something special, which is what this falls under. And then third, I'll just mention it because this one probably won't fall under that one either, is if I think there is something out there that has a crazy price. The example I have available right now are the street feet from John Deere are like $350. I think that's a crazy price, and that gives enough gap in between that even somebody like me who doesn't order, tens of thousands of them can have some produced and actually sell them for a reasonable price. Maybe I don't make a whole lot of money, but I'm still making some money, and there's a big enough gap there. So that's really the three things. Not there, does something, it is there, but it does something special, or the price is crazy. For this one, the price is probably going to be very similar to the John Deere OEM third function. Now, my valve is a whole lot more sophisticated. The electronics are going to be a whole lot more sophisticated, and that's kind of why the price ends up being more, at least for me, but that will give you a sense of just how much John Deere probably has in their third function. Now, they also are not a one-man show in a shop out in the middle of Arkansas. So, they got a couple of other things to pay for. Now, for me, this third function really was born out of HydrosPlus, the fundamentals of HydrosPlus, right? More hydraulic flow means that now it makes sense to have a valve that is electronically proportional. And that's the special thing about this valve. You see these electronically proportional control valves in skid steers, you see them in mini excavators, but those machines typically have 15, 20, 30 gallons per minute going through the auxiliaries. In this case, from a factory, we only have 5 gallons a minute, so you wouldn't really need one. But with HydrosPlus, now this tractor has between 12 and 13 gallons a minute, so having something that's electronically proportional makes sense. This valve here is a proportional valve, but it's mechanically proportional, right? And I think a lot of us would, in a lot of ways, like to have something like this, but you can't operate this valve and then proportionally operate your third function without a third hand. So having it electronically proportional, if I can see over here without having to walk to the other side, there's a button here. It's a momentary button. We'll have electronics that will allow you to adjust just how much flow, and from a percentage point of view, how much flow that you want to go to something like the grapple. Now, I am torn at this point. I'm kind of at a fork in the road on whether or not I'm going to have a proportional thumb, I'll call it a thumb wheel is what they actually call it, where it has proportionality in and of itself, and then also have like a speed 1, 2, and 3 that controls, that's what the thumb wheel works within. That is, I think, the perfect solution. I don't know that I've figured out how to bring that to market in a cost-effective way, which might mean that it does come to market because some people are really going to want that extra functionality, but it may be an option where you have buttons like this with speeds, and then as an upgrade, because it's not going to fit kind of in the overall pricing model, where you have the thumb wheel and speeds. We'll see. I'm trying to figure out if I can actually just do one, because that's easier. But it's not looking good at this point, I'll tell you that, because it's just that even in bulk, that thumb wheel is nearly $200. So, I guess my kind of bulk, like hundreds, not, I guess if I bought 10,000 of them, I might get a better deal on it, but I don't know that I'm going to sell 10,000 of these. So anyhow, getting off topic. We've got this proportional valve. It's really born out of the fact that now that we have 12 to 13 gallons a minute, we might not want to send all 12 to 13 gallons a minute to that tiny little cylinder on the front of the grapple up there, right? So I would rather send just 30% of my flow to that. It'll close with sufficient speed and power, but then save the rest for lifting and curling. And I think it's really going to make anybody that's used like an excavator with a thumb, I think gets the point of being able to do all these different functions and kind of close and open at a reasonable pace. If you do it with this tractor, you can definitely do it, but you do have to think about managing that flow. I'm going to take some of that out of the equation where you just hit the button and it'll close again with reasonable power and speed, but and it's going to leave the rest for tilting and curling and other things, or boom, curl, whatever. One thing you might ask yourself is, why don't you just do that with a restrictor valve? And I can't go into why that's not the best way, but it is a way. I'm not going to say that it's not something that you should do. You can do it. It doesn't give you the same capability that this does, but that may not be necessary for what you're trying to do. Ultimately, being able to control it at the valve keeps it from just going over the pressure relief valve. It sends it downstream so that other functions can use it. And again, it's really necessitated by the fact that we actually now have a serious amount of hydraulic flow. One last thing I'll mention in this video, again, I can talk about so many different pieces of it. This one is built backwards compatible with John Deere. Now, if you're a Kubota guy or Massey or whoever, if you're thinking, well, he's always picking John Deere, you're right. There's just no way around that. But the reason I picked John Deere on this one is because this tractor, that tractor, the one over there, the 3R, the 4R, and maybe some of the other 4 tractors, they use this valve, the exact same valve for their third function and maybe even for some of the other ones. Now, let me take that back. 3R uses a different valve than this, I think. But all the other ones do use this valve in some capacity, and not necessarily for the third function. So it makes sense for me to pick a valve that I can make backwards compatible with some tractor, brand. Kubota, I've seen third functions on them, and I know Kubota sells third functions. I have not personally seen any what I would call consistency with their third function, which makes me think that they're partnering with somebody likely. This is speculation. I don't know. If somebody knows, tell me in the comments. But I've already picked this approach. Now, this valve, though, will be on that BX eventually. I just have to do a little more studying to determine what's the right way to put it together. Now, getting a backwards compatible third function valve for these tractors means that I can basically hand you the valve and some electronics, and you can go from a on-off third function to an electronically proportional third function. I'm trying to make this where, if you've already spent $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever, or $2,500 if you had them put it on, you don't get raked over the coals again if you want to have this functionality. This is something that anybody could change on their own. All you have to do is change the valve. It'll be a little bit of electrical wiring potentially, depending on how we end up doing the electronics, but nothing crazy, and it's something pretty much anybody who owns a tractor will be able to do. So I'm going to stop there because I can, again, talk ad nauseum about some of the different nuances and things that we can do with this new third function capability. Sorry, I'm lying. I have to tell you one more thing that kind of put me over the edge to say, you know what, I've got to make my own third function. And I don't have a backhoe to show you, but having your own third function valve means you can then design, pretend there's a backhoe here, a truly hydraulic thumb. Now, am I going to run that hydraulic thumb off the one that's up there, or am I going to put it on the backhoe and make it independent? I don't know the answer to that quite yet. I'm very close to having the final hydraulic thumb done, but I haven't shown anybody yet. But I'm very close. Actually, just so you don't think I'm completely full of it, hang on. There. That is my hydraulic cylinder for the HydrosPlus hydraulic thumb. It's coming pretty soon, but it is predicated on that valve. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, go ahead and just put this out and we'll plumb it in and we'll make it work. I could do that, but the problem is you really need to have the electronics on your backhoe. Again, imagine there's a backhoe here, on that thumb switch, and nobody makes something that I've seen that is really gonna work in a good way. We're not that far away from this, so just hang on just a minute. But I would say that if you're interested in the truly hydraulic hydraulic thumb from HydrosPlus, you probably, at least on the John Deere, you're probably going to want to get the third function that I have. Now, does it need to be proportional? We could argue that. I think it does need to be proportional simply because the backhoe even has more functions. But for orange tractors that I don't already have any third function on them, for that matter, I'm probably going to take the valve and actually put it on the backhoe for those. I don't have an orange tractor with a backhoe just yet. I really have almost bought one a couple of times, but as you can see, I'd have to put this one way back together because of the turbo work I'm doing, and I don't really want to shell out the money just yet. But anyhow, I'm digressing again. It's getting dark. Golly, it's way past time to go home. Let me put this down. Oh, and then let me show you how this works. This, I don't think I've said it yet, this is a DC power source. It's going to let me control the amperage. And the current is what varies how much this opens, and also some springs and other things in there. Since I don't have the electronics, I don't want to yank out the Arduino and send PWM signals. So this is very simple and kind of straightforward to do it just for this little demonstration. So that's what that is. This is the hydraulic flow meter. You've seen this a number of times before. There's one there. There's actually one there on the, I want to call it the turbo encabulator, but it's the power comparison apparatus. But this is actually one of the first ones I've had. I've had it calibrated a couple of times. It's probably time to recalibrate it, but I don't actually know how long you can actually go, or what causes them to get out of calibration. I just have them checked every 6 months or so. But we've got it on there so you can get a sense of just how much flow we have on this tractor whenever we're giving the different variable speeds. The first thing I'm going to do, though, and I've already warmed up the tractor earlier, I'm going to show you the wide open throttle on the stage 2. I haven't shown anybody that yet. I have one short out there that has it, but I thought I'd show it here, and then I'll show you the proportional capabilities of this new valve. And I think I'll have to stop there for today. We'll talk more about it here in the near future. Let me get this thing started here. All right, let's see. Oh, so I'm just gonna go kind of wide open here, but if I go to wide open, this is what happens when you hook it up backwards. All right, hoses are hooked up. Start her up. Click this guy on here. So you can see this is at idle, but it's With the amperage that it has now, that's completely open. So idle, we're spinning about 5 gallons a minute. We rev it up here. Let's just do it as we go. My favorite RPM is 1800. We're almost on about 9. I don't know if you could see the glare, or through the glare, about 12 and a half. So 12 and a half at wide open throttle. We're gonna do this. Okay. So, as you saw earlier, 5 gallons a minute roughly. If we turn it all the way on, right, 5 gallons a minute. But if we just barely turn it on, and this will probably be like the number 1 setting, and it should come on at about 1.4 amps of current, so 1.3 to 4. Now it actually will go off at a lower current than it comes on, and takes a little bit more to activate than to deactivate. But you can see we've got this variable capability, 1.36 amps, and we're running. We have 5 gallons a minute coming out of the pump, but we are running. Sorry, I'm trying to see. We're running almost 2. Now, speed 2 might be, speed 2 might be 1 point, I'm gonna call it 1.75, I think, about right. Thing is touchy. Hang on, let me back her down. Maybe I said this was the easier way. I don't know if it's the easier way. Yeah, so maybe this is speed. I hold my mouth just right. So speed 2, speed 1 was almost 2 gallons a minute. Maybe speed 2 is we'll call it, maybe a little more, 3 gallons a minute. Oh, back it off. Sorry, this is a little harder than I thought it was going to be. So this is not a good indication, but about 1.8. It's going to get you 3 gallons a minute in this case. And then if we want to go wide open, we just open it all the way up. This solenoid will take something like 3 amps of total current. We're at 12 volts. Now, we won't get into Ohm's law or anything about why, if we're down here at, 1.5, we're only at 8 volts, but it's Ohm's law. Let me just Google it. So yeah, so you can see the variability in here, and then obviously with the electronics, you're going to change that some, and obviously let's get a little bit more throttle here. Now the wide open is 7, so at 1.4, just so 1.4 or 5, we're going at a little over 2 gallons a minute. We can go up to 1.9, and we're 3.5 gallons a minute, and then we can move on up to 7, and then we can go to 5. Yeah. I think you get the idea. Let's see here. So you get the idea, and you're also seeing some of the reason I think having a thumb wheel might actually be just a little bit better. Now this is kind of like a thumb wheel, but the fact that it can go up and down at different amperages, I think it's just a better solution. Again, I'm just trying to get over the price. Now, will the other way work? Sure. It'll work, and it'll work just fine. So, I'm still out on exactly how we're going to tackle that. But that's what's coming. And, if you don't have a third function yet, and you don't need one until maybe the summer, this might be worth waiting on. If you were going to get the OEM. I actually don't have any idea what the other ones, like the Artilian or the WR Long or the Summit, I haven't even looked at what those cost, and maybe they're more than the OEM. I do kind of keep an eye on the OEM because I feel like I'm bringing similar, quality is not the right word, but just similar types of products that are, I try to make things look factory. I try to make them very well integrated, and I try to make them, slick, of course. Because I'm doing that, I kind of use John Deere's cost, even though it typically is pretty high, as my benchmark of that's who I have to beat. You know, you talk about I don't have to outrun the bear, I have to outrun, your friend. Well, I'm just trying to outrun John Deere to kind of keep up with things. There may be other people that are faster and cheaper and whatever, however you want to run that analogy. But ultimately, if you want it by, I'm going to say summer. I think it's going to be here earlier, but I have been talking about this far too long with very little to show for it. That's why I'm here. I want to show you that actually it does exist, and it is pretty close. Now, when we think about how this is going to hit the market, it will probably first hit the market for the John Deere guys, and it will be very quick for people who want backwards compatibility. They've already got all of the hoses and the tubes, and so that kit will cost obviously less than if you don't have a third function at all. That's going to be the one that's more close to the John Deere price. You're not going to save a whole lot by having all of this because most of the components that you need are the very expensive components, but you will save quite a bit of not just money, but you're going to save effort as well. So I think that's actually the big difference. Effort is going to be important because this one's not terribly hard to install, but it's not easy, I would say. And the guy over there, the 1 Series, that baby, you got to take all, you just basically have to gut it. But when you get it on there, you can't even see it. So that's what's cool about it. This one's out here and easier to work on, but you got to go all the way into here and you've got stuff back here. Anyway, enough rambling. I hope that gives you a little bit of a taste of what we've got coming. I hope you're as excited as I am. I hope everybody is thinking about buying a faster hydraulic pump so that you can run your loader smoother and faster and with lower RPMs and all the good things. And this is going to be another kind of piece of our HydrosPlus puzzle that's going to give us some capabilities that have never been before seen on these size tractors. Questions, comments, leave them below, and thanks for watching.